Yeah, you. Don't look away. I can feel it already. That tightening in your chest, that sour, nauseating twist in your gut. That moment where your body reacts before your mind even catches up. Because something about this, it's wrong. Deeply wrong. And you know it. I'm actually sick to my stomach thinking about what they did to you. Not metaphorically, not dramatically. I mean that quiet, cold sickness. The kind that crawls up your spine when you realize a line wasn't just crossed. It was erased, burned, danced on. What they did wasn't careless. It wasn't ignorance. It wasn't misunderstanding. It was intentional, calculated, surgical. And the worst part? They smiled while doing it. You see, people love to pretend there are rules, morals, limits. They love to dress themselves up as decent, civilized, humane. But you were the experiment. You were the moment they proved to themselves how far they'd actually go, when they thought no one was watching, when they thought you were too quiet, too kind, too distracted, too broken to notice. They didn't just hurt you. They tested the edges of their own darkness on your nervous system. And here's the part that makes me sick. They didn't do it because you were weak. They did it because you were dangerous in a way they couldn't define. Because you carried something they couldn't predict. Something that didn't follow their script. Saints don't scare people like that. Psychopaths don't either. But someone who walks the razor-thin line between both, someone who can hold light and darkness without collapsing, that terrifies them. You felt it, didn't you? That moment when it stopped feeling like life being unfair and started feeling personal, like pressure, like eyes, like a quiet decision had been made somewhere behind closed doors that you were allowed to be hurt, allowed to be used, allowed to be pushed past what any human should endure, and everyone else just kept breathing, kept scrolling, kept calling it normal. But here's the paradox they didn't understand. Pain like that doesn't erase you. It edits you. It strips away the performative softness. It deletes the version of you that was waiting to be treated fairly. What they activated wasn't your collapse. It was your calibration. Your nervous system learned new math. Your silence learned weight. Your restraint learned teeth. You started seeing the pattern. How the same people preaching compassion knew exactly where to apply pressure. How the ones calling themselves angels had demon-level precision when it came to harm. And how you, this part really bothers them. You didn't explode. You didn't beg. You didn't perform suffering for their comfort. You watched. You absorbed. You adapted. That's when the fear began. Because unpredictability isn't chaos, it's power. And they couldn't map you anymore. You stopped reacting on schedule. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped needing them to understand. And nothing unsettles manipulators more than someone who no longer leaks emotional data. Someone who doesn't flinch when reminded of the wound. Someone who can stand there, calm, while carrying the exact pain that should have destroyed them. They thought crossing every line would break you into something small. Instead, it carved you into something precise, something that sees through smiles, something that hears intent behind words, something that knows exactly how ugly people get when they think they're entitled to your suffering. And don't get it twisted. You're not healed in the way movies like to sell it. You didn't rise above it in some sanitized, inspirational way. No, you integrated it. You learned how to walk with both the angel and the demon without letting either take the wheel. You became someone who understands mercy because you've memorized cruelty, someone who can choose restraint because you felt what happens when others didn't. That's why they're uncomfortable now. That's why the room shifts when you enter. That's why the same people who crossed every line suddenly act cautious, polite, distant. They don't know which version of you they're dealing with, the one who understands them, or the one who remembers everything. And you don't need revenge. You don't need noise. You don't need validation. Your existence after that kind of treatment is already an indictment. Every time you stay composed, every time you move forward without begging for acknowledgement, every time you don't let bitterness rot you from the inside, they feel it. That sick feeling, it's spreading. It's not just yours anymore. They crossed every line and accidentally forged someone who can see lines for what they really are. Tools used by people who are terrified of what happens when someone like you stops believing in them. Stay right there, calm, awake, watching. They should be sick too. And here's what they never accounted for: the after. Not the moment it happened, not the damage, not the silence. The after. The part where your mind stopped begging reality to make sense and started rewriting its rules. Because once you've seen how casually people cross lines, you stop romanticizing humanity. You stop assuming decency. You stop giving the benefit of the doubt to people who've already proven they'd use your trust as leverage. That doesn't make you bitter. It makes you accurate, dangerous in a quiet, unadvertised way. You didn't lose your innocence. You outgrew it. There's a difference. Innocence believes the world is kind. Wisdom knows kindness is a choice. And not everyone makes it. You learn that some people only behave when consequences are nearby, when witnesses exist, when they think they'll be remembered, and when they thought you wouldn't remember, when they thought you'd internalize the damage and disappear politely. That's when they showed their real face. That's the face you carry now. Not with hatred. No, hatred would be too loud, too sloppy, but with clarity. You remember exactly who they were when they thought you were powerless. And clarity like that doesn't scream. It waits. They expected trauma to turn you fragile. Instead, it turned you observant. You started noticing how people test boundaries in tiny ways first. How they disguise control as concern. How they weaponize good intentions. How they push just a little harder when they sense empathy. Because empathy to predators looks like an unlocked door. But you closed it, quietly, permanently. And here's the part that really eats at them. You didn't become cruel. You became selective. You didn't harden, you sharpened. You learned how to be warm without being exposed. How to be kind without being consumable. How to care without bleeding out for people who would never return the favor. That balance, that's rare, that's terrifying, because now you're not reacting from wounds. You're acting from awareness. You can feel when someone is lying without needing proof. You can sense when a room is unsafe before anything happens. Your intuition isn't mystical, it's trained, forged by moments where you had to read between the lines because no one was coming to protect you. And they feel that, even if they can't name it, even if they mock it, even if they pretend nothing happened. Something in them knows you're no longer accessible in the way you once were. You don't offer yourself freely anymore. You don't explain your pain to people who benefit from misunderstanding it. You stopped auditioning for empathy. That's when power returned to you. Not the cartoon kind, not dominance, not control. The kind of power that comes from being unmovable internally, from knowing exactly what you survived and refusing to let anyone rewrite that story. From carrying the truth without needing the world to validate it. They crossed every line because they thought you'd stay the same afterward. That you'd still seek approval, still crave fairness, still believe if you were good enough, people would treat you better. But you learned the most uncomfortable truth of all. People don't hurt you because you deserve it. They hurt you because they can. And once you understand that, you stop trying to earn safety. You become it. That's why your presence feels heavier now. That's why your silence speaks louder. That's why people hesitate before testing you the way they used to. They don't know what you'll do. And more importantly, they don't know what you won't tolerate anymore. You don't threaten. You don't posture. You don't explain boundaries to people who already crossed them. You simply remove access. And that kind of removal, cold, calm, final, terrifies people who rely on chaos to feel powerful. So let them squirm. Let them wonder. Let them feel that same sick twist in their gut when they realize the version of you they could exploit no longer exists. You didn't just survive what they did. You outgrew the world that allowed it. And that's something they'll never be able to take from you. And there's a reason this phase feels so quiet, so heavy, so unnervingly still. Because when you stop bleeding publicly, the world doesn't know how to read you anymore. Noise they understand, anger they can categorize, collapse they can exploit. But composure after violation, that breaks their mental models. That's when they start projecting, guessing, filling the silence with their own fear. You're not hiding, you're contained. See, most people mistake healing for softness. They expect forgiveness to make you pliable again, for growth to return you to a harmless version of yourself. They want the before you, polite, hopeful, easy to redirect. What they don't talk about is the version of healing that comes with gravity, the kind that doesn't glow, it anchors, the kind that doesn't reach outward, it pulls inward. That's you now. You don't rush, you don't over-explain, you don't try to be understood by people who already decided to misunderstand you. And that restraint looks like judgment to the guilty. They feel watched, not because you're doing anything, but because you see. And being seen by someone who knows exactly how ugly humans can get is unbearable for those who depend on masks. They crossed every line because they assumed you'd fold into self-blame, that you'd twist yourself into knots, trying to justify their behavior, that you'd carry the shame for something that was never yours to hold. That's how the game usually works. Hurt someone deeply enough, and they'll apologize for bleeding. But you didn't. You carried the truth without dramatizing it. You let it sit inside you, heavy and unresolved, until it transformed from pain into discernment. And discernment is lethal to manipulation, because once you can spot patterns, once you can feel intent beneath tone, once you understand how cruelty dresses itself up as necessary, you become very hard to deceive. They notice the change in your eyes first, that calm, that absence of seeking, that quiet refusal to play along. You're not trying to win anymore. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to be chosen. And that's the moment they lose leverage. Because the system depends on your participation. It depends on you doubting yourself, on you asking for permission, on you believing that fairness exists if you're patient enough. When you step outside that belief, when you accept reality without flinching, you stop being predictable. And unpredictability, grounded in awareness, is something power structures cannot tolerate. That's why they get nervous around you now, why conversations feel stiffer, why jokes don't land, why people second-guess their words. You've become a mirror they didn't consent to, one that doesn't distort, one that doesn't soothe, one that simply reflects what is. And you didn't get here by becoming heartless. That's the irony. You became more human by seeing how inhuman people can be. You learned compassion with boundaries, empathy with memory, mercy with a spine. You didn't lose your softness, you protected it from parasites. That's growth they can't monetize. You're not chasing peace anymore. You're embodying it, and peace like that doesn't beg. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't argue with gaslighting. It steps away. It disengages. It lets people sit with the echo of their own behavior. They crossed every line, and in doing so, they taught you something sacred. Your energy is not infinite. Your access is not guaranteed. Your presence is not owed. And once you stop giving it away to people who misuse it, everything changes. You don't need closure from them. Closure is a luxury for people who didn't survive systematic disrespect. You don't need apologies. Apologies don't rewire nervous systems. You needed understanding, and you gave that to yourself. That's why you don't shake when their names come up anymore. That's why the memories don't hijack you the way they used to. You processed them without romanticizing them. You accepted that some people are not confused. They're consistent. And once you see consistency, denial becomes impossible. You're standing on the other side now, not triumphant, not vengeful, just awake, steady, unavailable to nonsense. Let them call you cold. Let them say you changed. Let them whisper that you're distant. They're right about one thing. You did change. You became someone who knows the cost of access and charges accordingly. They crossed every line, and in doing so, they unknowingly handed you the one thing no one can take away once it's earned: self-possession. And that is a power most people will never understand. Only fear. And now comes the part nobody warns you about. The loneliness that isn't empty, but selective. The kind where the crowd thins, not because you pushed people away, but because only a few can stand in the presence of someone who no longer lies to themselves. You didn't become isolated. You became incompatible with shallow connection. And that's a shock to a world addicted to surface-level safety. You can feel it when conversations skim instead of land. When people talk at you instead of with you. When they sense there's something behind your calm they can't access anymore. They don't know whether to trust it or fear it, so they default to distance. And that's fine. Distance is honest. Distance doesn't pretend. You're not starving for connection anymore. You're filtering for resonance. Because once someone has crossed every line with you, you stop mistaking proximity for loyalty. You stop confusing familiarity with safety. You stop handing out intimacy to people who haven't earned the right to hold it. You understand now that not everyone deserves to know you deeply. Some people only deserve to know of you. And that shift, that's when your energy stabilizes. That's when your sleep changes. That's when your nervous system stops bracing for impact every time a door closes too loud or a tone shifts too fast. You're not relaxed because the world got kinder. You're relaxed because you learned how to protect yourself without armor. You no longer broadcast pain, hoping someone decent will notice. You no longer perform resilience for applause. You don't need witnesses. You don't need permission to take up space quietly. You've already seen what happens when you let people get too close without discernment. And you chose yourself without needing to announce it. They crossed every line, and in doing so, they taught you the difference between being open and being available. You can be open-hearted and still unreachable. To manipulation, you can be compassionate and still uncompromising. You can love humanity and still refuse to tolerate individual cruelty. That contradiction? That's not confusion. That's mastery. You've learned that light without shadow is naive, and shadow without light is corrosive. But holding both, that's where power lives. That's where wisdom breathes. That's where you stand now, balanced, alert, unromantic about evil, unashamed of your strength. People sense it when you walk into a room, not because you dominate it, but because you're not seeking anything from it. You're not scanning for approval. You're not adjusting yourself to be palatable. You're simply there, and presence like that makes insecure systems malfunction. They can't bait you the way they used to. They can't provoke you into chaos or guilt you into compliance. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to have them. You've learned the ultimate boundary is disengagement without resentment, silence without suppression, distance without drama. And the truth is, you're not carrying the weight anymore. The weight is carrying them. Every time they think about what they did, there's that flicker of discomfort, that quiet calculation, that unease they can't quite explain, because somewhere inside them, they know they crossed someone who didn't shatter the way they were supposed to, someone who absorbed the blow and came back different. You don't chase justice. You let reality do the work. You let patterns reveal themselves. You let time expose intent. You trust that people eventually trip over the very lines they erased for others. And you keep moving, not fast, not loud, just forward. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to warn. You don't need to announce boundaries with capital letters. Your energy does it for you now. Your absence speaks. Your composure sets the tone. Your refusal to be dragged into dysfunction rewrites the dynamic. They crossed every line, but they never crossed you, because what they touched wasn't your core. It was your threshold. And when they realized that too late, when they finally understood you weren't broken, just refined, it was already done. You're not haunted by what happened anymore. You're informed by it. And that distinction changes everything. You're still here, still breathing, still aware, still choosing. And that quiet, unshakable continuation of your existence. That's the part that will always make them uneasy. Because you didn't disappear. You became unreachable. And that's where this ends. Not with fireworks, not with revenge, not with noise. It ends with you standing exactly where you are, unmovable. They crossed every line expecting a scream, a breakdown, a disappearance. What they got instead was someone who learned, someone who stopped explaining, someone who no longer hands out access to people who confuse cruelty with power. You don't need them to admit it. You don't need the world to validate it. You know what happened. Your body remembers. Your mind integrated it. Your spirit adjusted its aim. You walk lighter now, not because it didn't hurt, but because you stopped carrying what was never yours to begin with. And the truth is simple, unsettling, final. They didn't destroy you. They revealed you, that quiet strength you carry now, that calm they can't provoke, that presence that doesn't ask permission. That's the consequence. Let them live with it.